Here's one thing I want to tell you. This isn't just related to new construction. This is everybody out there buying and selling a home, and every real estate agent out there as well. The closing date. I think as an industry, we've done a very poor job at setting expectations with customers about the closing date. And guess who ends up getting blamed? We do, because we didn't do a good enough job setting the expectation date. Yes, that closing date is what's in the contract. Completely get it. The reality is there are so many moving parts outside of the real estate agent and buyer or seller's control that basically hold that closing date hostage.
Right.
You need to always be prepared that closing date is going to be late. That way you're safe, because lenders, things happen, delays happen, underwriting problems happen, title companies and lenders having too many files at once and they can't get them through, especially near the end of the month or the end of a week. Those are always challenges. And as an industry, we don't do a good enough job of that. So people plan their whole life around that closing date, and then it gets moved. A lot of the time it gets moved. And a lot of the time it gets moved for things people can't control. It's just part of the process. So,
Right.
We always tell people, look, let's say the closing date's, April 17th. Just to be safe, plan that you might not be able to move in until April 24th. So have some sort of backup, always have some sort of backup plan. If you're running around to an Airbnb or a hotel at the last minute, it's just poor planning. Always have a backup plan with where you're going to live. And so when you get the closing date of April 17th, push it out longer and expect in your brain that it's not going to get done on time, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that get delayed. And then secondarily, have a plan for where you're going to go. If you're selling your house and you got to close, know where you're going to go ahead of time. Don't get all frustrated because you're running around at the last minute to figure out where to go. Set the expectation up front that, hey, look, this closing date's a moving target. I understand it's what's in the contract, but we're at the lender and title company's mercy. We're at the county's mercy in some instances. There could be some permit issue or some lien issue.
Yep. Appraisal issues.
There could be there could be an inspection issue. We had one not long ago where a leak happened in the roof during the walkthrough. They discovered it, and that caused a delay. So just we don't live in a vacuum.
Right.
Is the reality of it. A lot of moving parts. Plan and be prepared for the possibility and the likelihood that your closing date is going to get moved.
Right. It's all about setting that expectation, and we talk about it at Atlantic Bay all the time as far as setting the expectations, not always just with your clients, but also with your real estate agents. The owner of our company always says, if we set or have a closing scheduled and we ask the agent to do it for 33 days, for instance, and we close a few days earlier and have a 30-day close, they're going to love us. They're going to think we're the greatest thing in the world because we closed early. But conversely, if you tell that agent, yes, I can close it in 27 days.
And then close in 30.
But then you close it in 30, they think
Correct.
You did a terrible job, you don't know what you're doing,
I
even though
think
you closed in the same
time. And I think,
time.
again, a lot of this is on the real estate agent side, not doing a good enough job of explaining that. But a lot of it's also on the consumer side, pushing for something that isn't realistic. And sometimes
Right.
the real estate agent wants to accommodate them in hopes that it'll end up happening, knowing in the back of their mind it's not likely, and should have disclosed, should have said that. Should have said,
Right.
hey, look, closing on Friday on the last day of the month is stupid. Don't do it.
Terrible
It's the dumbest
idea.
it's
Terrible.
the dumbest day to close. Close so a few days before, in the middle of the week. Don't close when everyone else is closing, because the title companies and mortgage, they certainly want to get them in by the end of that month. They want that month to look better. But the problem is that's when all the activity's happening. So that increases your likelihood for a delay. You close in the middle of the week. You don't close near the end of the month. And guess what? You have a much better chance of having less of a painful closing.
Right, and we talk about it too around the office all the time, not the Friday closings,
Yeah.
big time. If there's a delay, even if it's one day, that one day turns into Monday, which means you may not
But
have
the
anybody
customer
go
will
over
say,
with
oh, I
you.
want to close on Friday because I can move on the weekend. We'll close on Wednesday. You can still move on the weekend.
Exactly.
Because your Friday closing is going to be a nightmare.
Right, absolutely.
And it's the reality of the business. It's not going to change. It's not going to change by who you use or what company you go to. It's just the reality of the complications.
There's just way too much involved with the process that can go on. And I've had some instances recently. I had a loan that was supposed to close on Tuesday. Our side of it was completely cleared, but we never got the title until Wednesday.
Right.
So the title actually came a day after we were supposed to close.
Right.
And
That restarts a process that causes
exactly,
delays.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was something that was outside of anyone's control except for the
Right.
title company. They
And
were
the
only one.
reality is the consumers will sometimes get frustrated by that, but if the consumer just expects that it's gonna be late. The agent sets the expectation that it
Right.
very well could be, so that everyone doesn't view that date as set in stone. That date is not set in stone. You know what I view that as? It's like a bullseye. It's like a
target.
goal on a target. It's
Yeah,
a
it's a
goal.
target.
The goal is that closing date,
Right.
but there's such a strong likelihood that that date doesn't end up happening. So
Right.
we're gonna be back with the last segment of the show after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show on 970 WFLA.